Alright, hello everyone! I am back. Just gotta do some readjustment here on the light. Hello! Alright. Hello everyone, welcome to another Twitch stream and my continuing progress on Smaug. In our last stream last week, I did all the airbrush work, highlighting up the reds on both wings and the body. Excuse me for a minute. Needed a little liquid refreshment. So today what I'm going to do is continuing with the base coats and just paint in all the scales and then the underside of the body before I move on to the shading. But right now I'm pretty happy with the color that I have going on the wings that I did with the airbrush last week. Very pleased with it. Can really see the detail. It looks like, you know, worn leather, you know, dragon hide. That's what it mainly looks like, and it turned out really good. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm looking forward to continuing on. And I got some scratches here. That's okay, I can touch that up. That's probably from my glove. So let's go ahead and I'm going to darken in these scales here with some Rhinox hide from Games Workshop. I'm going to add a little bit of the Citadel Lamia Medium just to help with the flow. It's a big model, so it's going to take a while to finish them up. Apologize for not making it last Thursday. I got ill just before my stream. I wasn't feeling well, so it's knocked me back on my schedule. But I'm feeling much better. So I got a big brush. Take it through here. Let's see if I can get this onto the camera. There we go. And just need to make sure that I'm not getting on the area that I painted with the airbrush. But I will be going around, you know, outside of the scales just to give it some darkened area where the scales will be. So I don't need to be very precise on the scales. It's alright if I get around it, you know, some darkened areas around the scales. That way it's just gives it adds more texture, color to the hide. But I don't want to have too big of a brush, because that way I would get too much of the brown on here. But this one is just about the right size. I want to try to keep it as neat as possible. I want the paint thin, but not too thin or too thick to obscure the detail. Also need to be careful not to touch the wet paint and then touch the side of the model. So right in here, in between the scales, I'm going to go ahead and add that right outside just to darken it up a bit. And when I do the shade, that'll darken that area. There's some little ones right in here. I'm definitely hoping to get him done by next month, like early next month. So maybe another month of streaming. Definitely want to get him painted up and get him onto the table. Show him off and play some games with him. He definitely is an army of his own. Usually base coating is the most tedious part of painting anything, but it's the most important because everything else is works off of that. Use my thumb to drag my brush across and rotate it to get a good tip. Good point on the end of the brush. After a day's session, I have sometimes a wide variety of colors on my thumb. So anyone in the watching, are you working on a project at this time, or are you just hanging out, watching me? Do you do anything artistic, painting canvases or models or anything like that? Go ahead and post those in the chat. After I'm done with this big boy, I want to work on the new Pelennor Fields set and get that painted up. Really excited to paint up the Warriors of the Dead. Be quick and easy to paint them up. Are they being too loud, Nathan? I can speak louder. It might freak him out if someone's yelling at him through the computer, though. Well, hopefully they'll calm down and you can relax. Yeah, looking at this, I think I'm just going to do a quick shade in the recesses and just leave it at that. I'm not sure if I want to add any more highlights to them, but we'll see what happens when I get to the shading process. Sometimes I get to a point with a project and it's like, I just want to get it done. I've worked on it too long. I'm tired of looking at it. It's that stage where, oh, it's good enough. I'm done working on it. Time to move on to something else. Okay, Nathan. Hopefully it'll start working for you. There's a storm possibly coming in, so we'll see what happens here. Painting scales. Scales, scales, scales. Gotta be really careful with. Make sure I have a good point. And I'm out of frame, I apologize. If anyone's got any questions, just go ahead and post them in the chat. what I'm doing, what the model is, or if you want to talk about if you're working on any projects, go ahead and post those in there. I hope everyone's day has gone really well for them today. I had a good day today. I was working on some Gene Stealer cult models for a commission. Finished them up. They turned out really nice. Hold on a second, I'll show you one of them. You can see them. So this is one of 5 that I was working on. I finished them up. They were really fun to paint. Really enjoyed those. And then I got some other stuff that I'm planning on working on tomorrow. Some different things. Alright, let's move down to the next wing. That's part of the wing. Oh, I got too much water on that. Thankfully, I don't have scales on the underside. There's some scales, just individual scales off on the wing membrane. Making sure I just putting the paint on the scale and not around it. All these individual scales. Thankfully, on the back of the body, it's just a stripe down his back, so it'll be easy to do. We had a nice cool day, temperature-wise. So it looks like fall is actually starting to show up, which is nice. Looking forward to seeing all the different colors on the trees. I'll take some photographs of it so my wife can paint up some pictures from all the different colored leaves. She likes to do that. She's more of the 2D painted on canvas than me. I'm more the 3-dimensional figurines. I would like to paint some canvas stuff. One day I'll have the time to do it. Scale, scale, scale. I might just, after I'm done with this, do some shading and just work on this wing for tonight to show some progress. Be like, hey look, I finished the wing. I painted the wing. No, I don't have the rest of the guy done. I just have his wing. Alright, well, we're getting there. Excuse me. Some scales here on his finger, on his claws. I think I might work on the base too tonight. I might change of pace. I don't think we're going to stream this whole me just painting all scales tonight, so I'll work through this one, get some shading on it, and while that's drying, I'll work on the base. Just want to show majority of the process of me painting him. Yeah, I think it gets kind of boring watching someone paint each individual scale on a model. Well, I try to keep it entertaining. Scale, scale, scale. Painting scales. just covering over the spots that got the paint came up. I'll put some. Help it from shipping. Some places where the primer didn't get to, it's still white in here. I can touch that up with this paint. Scale. Anyone see any good movies lately? Or any good TV shows? Been watching Fear of the Walking Dead on AMC. It actually has gotten better than, at least how in my opinion, it's gotten a bit better than it was when it first started. Yeah, I've rewatched Lord of the Rings. I just watched The Hobbit last week. I think it's about time to rewatch The Lord of the Rings again while I'm painting. What's your favorite part in Lord of the Rings? I have so many of them. Depends on which movie, too. My favorite of the trilogy, of course, is Fellowship. But I like all... It's hard to say them in parts, because... Yep, Helm's Deep, that's a good one. I don't view them as 3 different films. I view it as one continuous story. Helm's Deep is a good one. The battle in Balin's tomb in Moria, that's one of my favorite sequences, and also the Amen Hen at the end. Pelennor Fields when the Rohirrim show up. Yeah, but they were two different things, two different ways. I like them both, and I'm glad it wasn't the same. Like I would have been sitting there watching the Battle of Minas Tirith, and I was like, "Oh, we already seen this," so it was different. The where the when the Rohirrim, the right of the Rohirrim, the charge when they come in, and that always gives me goosebumps when I'm sitting there watching that. Excuse me. Yeah, with that new bot set for the Lord of the Rings game, the Pelennor Fields. Oh, those Rohirrim! I'm so excited to get to work on those. They've always been my favorite army to paint and play. I have a pretty good sized Gondor force too that I've been playing recently, and I like that. I'm getting close to being finished with the scales on this wing. Yeah, I keep looking at that and I'm tempted by it, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time to start another game. I've been in a big hobby mode, just painting a bunch of stuff, which is good because I do commissions and really enjoying painting stuff. So, oh yeah, how'd it go? I had someone contact me for painting up some Death Watch for a kill team today. So we'll see if that will happen. So much black armor. But those are fun because you have the different. I like the theme behind them, the story, the background story of the Death Watch, where it's the best of the best. Well, that's nice. Yep, I'm sure that'll change when the new Orc book come out. I believe that would be next month. That Gorka Morka set, the Speed Freaks, that looks really cool. I would like to pick that up and play that. Alright, so I think I got all the scales on this. So we'll let that dry for a little bit and I'll go ahead and add the bone to the talons. Oh, the codexes don't matter? Because don't they have the... Well, you need the stats for the models, so... I see. No, I'm not done with this old thing. I'm just going to work a little bit on the wing, and then I'm going to work on the base and actually show some progress tonight. I think we're gonna do the majority of this guy off camera and break up the streams and do some other work. I see. Different stats and kill teams. Alright. So now I put some Citadel Xandri dust on my palette. I'm going to thin it a little bit with Lamia Medium just to help it flow. And we'll paint some of these bones and talons. So how are you guys doing tonight? Any projects you're working on at the moment, or are you just hanging out? Just relaxing. Watch me paint out of frame here. Yeah, I know that feeling. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm done. I don't want to work on anything. But I had a really good day today. Finished up some Gene Stealer Colt hybrids for a commission. Oh, well, I hope that interview went well for you. Hopefully it was for it was a good for a new job or whatnot. Not someone calling you and yelling at you. That's not always fun. That's good. Well, good luck. Hopefully that will work out for you. It's always nice to change for the better. I am coming up on my 2 years as a full-time commission painter. The end of this month, on the 30th, is when I said goodbye to my full-time job and became a full-time painter. Well, that sounds like fun. Well, good luck with that. Hopefully that turns out good for you. You're welcome. All right. Yeah, I'm definitely at that stage with this guy. Is like, oh, I don't want to paint him anymore. So I'm thinking after tonight, I'm gonna do some other stuff on the stream and come back to him. That's always nice. Yeah, more nights. That'll be fun to see. Use the ones from, I always forget the name of that game, but the new Epic game, that's how, it's all knights, the little baby knights. Titanicus Adeptus, or whatever. The new Epic is what I call it. 15 of them, oh my goodness. That's not a lot, you need at least 25. To make it worthwhile. Alright, so we got the bone base coated on here. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, let that dry, and work on the base. So I've done some shading on this, so now I'm just ready to add, go back and add up the highlights and work them up. So let's do that now. So I built up the highlights with the gold, with the airbrush, and then I went through and did all the base coats on all the other little bits. And then I did a Reichland shade wash all over. And then in certain areas I did an Adrats Earth shade, just to darken it in the recesses. Now let's start. We're going to do some dry brushing to pick out all the gold. Yeah, shiny, but it's the shade. The shade wash has dulled it down a bit, but it's still got some shine. As I reflect it from the light, it's still got some shine to it. So we're going to do some dry brushing. So I'm going to do, I got Citadel. Makes you feel poor. Yeah. I'm going to highlight the gold with the Citadel Dry Sigmarite. It's like a pale gold, bright gold, and then a smaller dry brush on just the raised areas with the Citadel Dry Necron Compound, which is a silver. I have a big dry brush, but I'm going to go to the medium size just to make sure I don't get it on the chest or anything else. So this should be fun. See how well this goes. And I have a smaller one for the hard to reach places. These dry paints are so weird. To work with. It's just because it's just pigment. It's got no binder or anything. It's just the paint. Well, I know you're doing that. Are you GMing or are you actually a character in this one, Justin? Ah, nice. Yeah, these work really well. I do like the dry paints. At first I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. You can just use regular paints, but these actually do give a nice even coating, because usually with dry brushing you get chalky results. I haven't had that with these new paints. But just like before, you want to make sure you wipe off the majority of your paint so there's hardly any on there. I mean, there's some on the brush. And I'm just dabbing it across, moving it across the coins. I don't want the whole area to be this color. I just want the raised areas. Because otherwise I lose my shading. And right in this area, that's one of his feet. And that's his other foot. So all under here, it's not going to be really bright, because that's where Smaug is, and he'll be portraying he'll be having a shadow. So I don't want those areas to be too bright, but I want to add some brightness to it. I have found with these metallic dry paints that they seem to be dried out when you buy them brand new, especially the Necron compound. But I just let GW know, or I go back to where I bought it. Usually I'm able to return it. I know you can use regular paints for it, but we're experimenting tonight using these. Yes. No, I meant to the point where you can't use it. That it's solid. You can't get your brush in it. This, it's not dried out. But yes, that was a pun. See if you guys are listening to me. I have some of the banding on the treasure chests or golds on hitting some of that edges. And then we got the pots here. Just slowly building up the highlights. Well, that's good. Painting's always fun. It's always a good day when you're painting. That's the one thing I don't like about dry brushing. I know it ruins your brushes, but you get little bits of your brush stuck on your model. Alright, so he's a little bit more shiny. Get more at the edges. Make sure there's no gold in that. And we'll go ahead and switch over to the Necron compound. And just go over lighter areas. More raised areas. I'm sure I will. That's alright, I enjoy seeing those. I'll be starting on your group's models probably next week. Start cleaning them up. Either this weekend or the beginning of next weekend. Or beginning of next week, I should say. Start cleaning them up and start painting them. They'll be done, don't worry. The 7. The 7 you gave me, yeah. So the plates that I have here are silver, so I'm just going over it with this. Just looking at it and see. I need to add more. That big huge guy? He needs to be done in 2 weeks too? Oh, then I better get going. Yeah, I'll be working on him this weekend. They're in line. As long as you get that base to me. No, it's okay. He doesn't need a base right away. Fine, then I'll work on him right away. Okay? No, he won't take me long. I'll do one more pass with this color, and then I think that'll be it. Alright, I might have to come back in here with some shading and just darken up certain areas, but I think that looks fine for now. Maybe in certain areas do some gloss varnish just to help make it shiny. Alright. And we'll continue on with some more dry brushing. Find the other colors I'm looking for. Yeah. We'll do the stonework, some dawnstone. Oh, excuse me. And then long beard gray. This is actually going to clean off. Alright. I do like the cool weather, the cool autumn weather, but with that comes with sniffly noses and sneezes and all that stuff, so I apologize for that. Alright, so I haven't heard about snow yet. I just heard about cooler weather. And no, I don't want it to snow yet. I want the autumn. I want the colored leaves right now. Alright, so now I'm working Dawnstone. Yeah, I know the snow is coming, but not yet. So I'm going to use a Dawnstone now over this stonework, using a smaller brush. Just add the color on. I'm doing a down motion here on the in between the Oh, that sounds like fun. I'm doing a down motion on the flat areas to give it some texture. Right here to make it look like there's texture on the flat areas. It does have some grit or some sand or something sculpted onto it, so it does have some texture, which is nice. I was watching the Hobbit movies, mainly the scenes where it was Smaug during this, and Erebor, looking at the stonework and everything, and looking at some pictures from the movie, and the stonework is actually green. Got a green tint to it. So it's like interesting. So I want to try to incorporate that in this. So I based it with a dark green gray color. And I'll add some shading and like green washes and glazes over it after I build up the colors here. It's getting there. Little by little. Excuse me. So I'm going to dry this off. Make sure there's no gray in there. Dark gray, I should say. And move on to the lighter gray, Longbeard gray. So, did you just prime him in black and leave him the way he is? He's all black. Does he have nothing else? What you can do is do a different... Oh, red accents. There you go. Yeah, I'll check them out and I'll let you know. There's so many different ways of painting black. It all depends on what highlights you use, and you want the majority of the areas to be black. So your highlighting is very minimal. As if you use... This is the base for Smaug, yes. I got tired of painting scale, so I switched over to this one, Nathan, to actually show some progress. Yeah, he sits on... This is where his feet are, and then his hands are up here. Instead of sitting here just painting scales all night, I decided to switch over to this, and because this piece was practically done, so we'll finish this up to show some progress. A lot of dry brushing and shade washes. Quick and easy. I did add some bait, I finished the scales on the wing and then added a bone color base coat. So then I'll do a wash over this and then pick out the details. But I decided for the majority of these streams I'm not going to show every little bit of working on them. I'll show a little bit and then continue it off camera. But I think I might be doing working on some smaller projects in my next stream just to show me actually painting instead of base coating for 2 hours at a time. That can be boring. Alright, I'm I'm going to add a little bit of white into this with the rack white. It's an off-white color. And I just want to do these on the very edges, most prominent highlights. With those sharp edges. Because I'm going to shade this down, I want to make the highlights really bright. Because when I shade it down, it's going to dull it down, dull down the color, and I want to keep the highlights, but it'll dull down the brightness of it. So I always bring it up really bright and then glaze it or wash it down. All right. Now, these dry paints out of my way. Alright, so I'm going to use some Atholian camo shade, like an olive green shade. Mix it a little bit with some Sephirum Sepia. Then add some Lamia Medium. I don't want it too strong, so I'm going to add the Lamia Medium to thin it. I found if you add water to the shades, the Citadel shades, it has a strange reaction, and it doesn't work like the washes should. So I'm just going to pour some in my palette. Add some of the sepia. I like to use a mixture of these colors when I do stonework. Just add some nice variation of color onto the gray. Add a few drops of the Lamia Medium. The Lamia Medium, it's the binding agent that they use in the paints. So it's basically just colorless pigment, colorless paint. Because they use this and they just add the color into it and mix up the paint. So this will make a nice glaze which will cover the area and tint the area with the color. Because a wash, it will go into the recesses, and I don't want that. I want it just to tint the color, tint the stonework to give it some variation. And I'm not going to paint the whole area, just certain area, not the whole pillar, just certain areas of it. I just dab it on there and just slowly work up the color. That's why I use thin glazes. It's easier to add more paint than it is to remove it. And like I said, when the pictures I looked at for Erebor, it's got that green tint, so I'm going to add, it's like almost an emerald type of looking stonework. I'm going to add a green glaze over this in certain areas just to tint it more. This is a great mixture to put on, if you have stonework on the bases, or if you're doing scenery, to make it, to simulate like growth and moss on the stones. Yeah, that works too. I've done that. In fact, the majority of my painting is I'll do all the base coats and then just do an all-over wash of Adrat's Earthshade and then let it dry, and I might add highlights, I might not, and just leave it at that. It's great for batch painting. But I might just do that on Thursday, just do a big old batch painting stream. Quick and easy. I'm going to use this color. I'm just trying to dab it around the rest of the base, just to add some variation and some color to this gold. Makes it look like it's tarnished. I go back and forth. I'll highlight it up and then shade it down just to get variations in color. So now I'm going to thin this down even more with Lamia Medium, the Waywatcher Green glaze. This just is the hint of a colored stone. I don't want it a bright green, I want it just very muted. Because the bright green will draw the eye to that and not to the main part of the model, which is Smaug. And with the green, with the color theory, the redness of Smaug, it'll contrast really nice. So when that's dry, I might do another layer. Still kind of wet. Doesn't take too long to dry, but you can see the color shift in the light. Alright, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, we'll go ahead and start working on some of these treasure chests. So I'm going to pick out, I have a wide variety of colors. I picked a few different browns, a couple different browns, a green, and then a blue-gray. So I still have some Rhinox hide. In my palette here. So I'm going to add a little bit of Gorthor brown into that and start painting the wood texture. And with the Rhinox hide, I had some Lamia medium in there just to help let the paint flow well. So I mix it up. I always use the back end of my brush to mix the paint instead of the actual tip of it, because you can ruin the brush. So this isn't a big color shift, but it's lighter than the base coat with the shade. Letting it dry. Oh, a good 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how thick it was. If you just lightly tap, lightly touch it, maybe with the back end of a brush or the sculpting tool, and as long as it doesn't dig into it, or you feel that it's pushing into it, then it'd be dry. I give it a good 20 to 30 minutes. If it's really thick, I just leave it overnight just to be on the safe side. Alright, that color is just, it's still too dark, so I'm not showing anything, so let's add some more Gorthor brown. So if it's a thick application, just let it dry overnight just to be on the safe side, because it could be dry within 20 to 30 minutes on that surface, but underneath it's still going to be wet. This is a guy I was working on earlier, and I put on a sterling mud, but it was a pretty thin layer, and it was dry within, 20 to 30 minutes at most. I applied it, and then I left the table to go pick up the kids from school, and that was roughly 20 minutes, actually about 30 minutes. By the time I got back, it was dry, and I was able to put a wash over it and then do a dry brush after that was dry. But I was working on these guys earlier, the Gene Stealer Cult models. Thank you. I'll have better pictures. I got pictures taken, but I didn't get a chance to post it before the stream, so I'll be posting those after the stream. Alright. Okay, now that that glaze is dried, it's got that slight green tint to the stonework, which I really like. So I'm real happy with that. Probably come in with some white and just do some highlights, add some more add that shadow down here at the bottom, but I like the look of those. So let's work on some of these treasure chests here. It's just a slight shift in the color because the right outside is still dark. But I didn't want to go to straight Gorthor brown because it would be too much of a contrast. And I'm also kind of painting over the dry brush of the gold and silver that I got in the area, so I'm using it as a touching up from that, and then I'll add more highlights. So this stage I'm just doing some touch-up work before I start building up more highlights. Like right here, I got the gold on the edge where I don't want it. I want that to be a different color. So I have some wood chests. That's got the detail of the wood grain, but some of them are mainly just regular leather. So I got different textures in here. I'm just going over, finding which ones have the darker brown. And this adze, the wooden handle. This right here is leather, so that'll be a different color. Alright. So now I'm going to go to straight Gorthor brown. Put on my palette. Add a little bit of Lamia medium. Just so it flows well. You don't have to add it. You can add a little bit of water, but I like using the medium. It actually has a drying retardant in it too, where it's a slow dry, so your paint doesn't dry out on your palette. Alright, so now I'm just trying to do small little lines to show that wood grain. It doesn't have to be straight lines. Wood grain is kind of irregular. Now this doesn't have a wood grain, it's just a dark leather. And it's rounded, so I'm just painting the highlight where it's curved and hidden. I can see the light reflecting off of it. And the underneath, it's not going to have a whole lot of highlight because that's in shadow, but I'm going to add a bit there. Add some, adding the highlight. When I'm doing the highlight, I'm kind of making just little lines and tapping it, to give it some texture. Sorry about that, I thought I was going to sneeze again. I go in with the Nets highlight, which is a brighter color. It's more yellow brown. I'm doing the same paint strokes. You can see the highlight a little bit better, the wood grain. Alright, so my next highlight is going to be Bane Blade Brown. You can see it's more of a kind of a khaki yellow-brown color. And I'm going to get my really fine tip brush. I'm just trying to get the very edges of the area. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to go back with my darker wash and paint inside in between each plank to separate it. It's bringing the color to the edge, so that's where the light's trying to hit it. Let's try to get that right color. So the same thing over here with the texture. I'm just tapping it where the highlight would be, just to show some texture of the leather. Just tap, 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 tap. Right. I guess some very nice visual to it. I'll work on this. Oh. I had too much on there, so I wiped it off real quick. And if the paint doesn't flow well, just add a little bit more water or Lamy medium. I probably should have done on this because it's flowing pretty good. It depends. Yeah, I tend to keep adding more and more highlights if I want it to be a brighter area. This is pretty much going to be it because Smaug is over it, so it'll be a lot of it will be in shadow. It also depends on how, what type of level am I painting it to? Am I painting it to a very high level where everything needs to be bright color, bright highlights? Pretty much when I say that's good enough is when I stop. It's like, yeah, that looks good enough. Or it's kind of hard to answer that type because it's all depends on you, the painter, when you're painting something, of how far you want to go with it. I've done some pieces where it's quick and easy, base coat, a shade to darken it, and then a quick highlight, and I was happy with it. I was ready to either go in my cabinet for display or ready to go play a game. If you're doing You know, you're just working on models to get them painted to play a game. They don't need to have 20,000 layers. You know, I know some painters that do that. Pretty much when as I'm highlighting it, if I get to a point it's like, you know, that's good enough, that looks good, I'm gonna stop. Or I might add one more little bit of highlight here and there. Yeah, until your fingers are bleeding. Because I'm not sure if this will show up there. Because right here that I've been working on, I'm happy with that. That works. I'm going to add a darker shadow in between the planks just to separate the planks. But right here, you can see it. I'm pretty happy with that. You know, like the same with the stonework. I'm happy with that. I might go back over with some more highlights. Sometimes I won't, when I'm painting an area, I won't bring it to the full highlight. I'll get it to a point where I'm happy, continue on another area, and then I'll look at the model and turn it around and see how it is in the light. It's like, you know what, that needs more highlight, and I'll go back to that area. It's a lot of back and forth with the model. Hopefully that answered it. It all comes down to if you think it's good enough, you know, if you think it's done, because you can always come back to it if you're not happy with it. Hopefully that answered your question. Alright, so we're going to do a shading. And go with that sepia camo shade. How often do I paint something for myself? It varies. Being a full-time commissioner, usually when I'm painting for someone else. This Smaug model, this is for me. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be doing on the stream is my own projects. I might sneak in a commission piece that I'm working on. But I try to paint something for myself as often as I can, just to break up the monotony. And just relax. You know, if I want to try something, a new technique, I'll work on my own piece. And I've been getting in the habit of taking breaks and working on my own stuff. So otherwise you can get burned out. But I enjoy painting. I enjoy it. I'd rather be painting. I'm more of a painter and a hobbyist than a gamer. And being able to do this being able to do this full time and as a paying job, coming up on 2 years this month, is a dream come true. So I'm enjoying it. Alrighty. I'm happy with that, so we'll switch over to a different color. I think I'm going to do these blue-gray stuffs. And I thank you for following me, Nathan, and everyone else. I appreciate it. So, the next color I'm going to do is this blue-gray. Yeah, I'm thinking of adding another day instead of the Tuesday, Thursdays, a third day. So I'm trying to figure out which one, what day I want to do that. Alright, so this blue-gray was a base coat of the Fang. So I'm going to go back with that color. The shade darkened it quite a lot, so I'm just going to go straight with this. I'm thinking of having a weekend, like maybe a Saturday night or Sunday. And it might be an earlier time. Excuse me. And maybe even longer than a 2-hour, maybe a 3-hour on that. I am enjoying doing the streaming. It is fun. I'm already painting, so might as well turn on the camera and do it on the camera and chat with people. In fact, tonight I might run a little bit overnight. So I'm just adding the Fang here, and this paint, this color, keeping the recesses dark. It's not a whole lot of area that I did this color. So mainly the shields and some of the treasure chests. And if it's too bright, I'll just go back with the shade and shade it down. A lot of the treasure chests are leather or some kind of fabric, so I'm doing that tapping motion, you know, just to add some texture with the highlight. Yeah, it does. And it's a bluish gray, so it's not an overpowering blue. I like to work with muted colors, not so much bright colors. Especially with the Lord of the Ring, with the Middle Earth games, the models for that. They don't have they're not brightly fantasy type colors. Nothing wrong with painting bright colored stuff. In fact, those are fun too. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of the rust gray, which is the next layer, But as you can see, it's a very sharp, very bright highlight. So mixing the two gives me a nice blend between the highlights. And adding the Lamy medium helps smooth out the blends. Just working with thin layers might take a little bit longer, but the results are really nice. So it's just a gradual transition of colors. Alright, it's almost 9, but you know what? I'm having fun. I'm gonna keep painting. So we'll run over. I can do that. It's my strength. So this, I'm not going. So I'm doing that. Just tap 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 on it, and just making texture. Just little dots, building up the highlight like that. It's kind of like what comic book artists do to give texture to the 2D. They do the cross hatching for shading and I think I might add some scratches into these too, just to make them. So I highly doubt Smaug was gentle to these things. He just scooped them all around, so they're gonna have some wear and tear. Alright, so now with the next highlight, I'm going to add some Fenrisian gray into my nets. So otherwise it would be a very very bright highlight, and I don't want that. I'm gonna add a little bit of Lamy medium just to help keep it flowing good, so it doesn't dry out on me. See, and now that color is a lighter shade of my base, but it's not as sharp contrast as that of the rust gray. It's a nice gradual highlight. A lot of the painting I go back and forth. I'll build up the highlights, like I said before. I'll build up the highlights, and if it's too much, I'll bring it back down with some shading or dark paints, and just go back and forth until I'm happy with the result. A lot of back and forth until it looks good to me. And then I'll say, yep, that's good. We'll stop there. I also keep looking under the light to see how progress is. Kind of hard to. My lamp is really washing it out on the camera. That's why when I'm done with my streaming, I take a picture and I'll post it on my Facebook to show off the progress. Now looking at the wood shields and treasure with that brown that I was doing before, it's not as bright, so I'm going to go back and add one more layer of a highlight. I have the Zandri Dust foam color right here. It's still wet on my palette. That's what's nice with the Lamy Medium, because it's a kind of a slow dry to the paint, so you still have more working time. So now I'm just going to go with the bone color. There we go. And then just add a few more lines to make it pop. Yeah, last Thursday I didn't have a stream. I wasn't feeling good. Last Tuesday I had one. That was with the airbrush. I was doing the airbrush on Smaug. If you're unable to see, you should be able to still see that down below on Twitch. Otherwise, you can follow me on YouTube. The link is down below. And I've been posting these onto that. So in case people have missed it or don't want to come to Twitch and watch it later, they can see it there. So if you are not already following me on Facebook, please do, and so you can get updates of when I do live stream. And I'm going to start doing some random days and times, so that way you can be up to date on that. Link is down below. It's under the social media section down below. Nathan. So if, like this stream, I know that you were talking about earlier, you were having issues with your computer, you could watch the beginning part of this later on, or when I post it up on YouTube. So when I do post it on YouTube, I do an announcement on my Facebook and Twitter page to let people know that that's available. just going back over with this Ushabti bone color. I'm just adding some more highlights. And that's really making that brown pop. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit more Fenrisian gray to the mist I have in here. A little bit more Lamia medium. I just want to keep it flowing well. Citadel paint tends to dry real fast, and that's how they designed it, how Citadel designed it. To combat that, the Lamia medium helps. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the interaction is definitely fun. At least I try to make it entertaining. But you can always message me on Facebook too, Nathan, if you want to chat. I'm always happy to talk about painting and whatnot. Yeah, this last highlight's really nice. Alright, I think I'm going to work on, with that done, some of the chests have a olive green color to them. So we'll go ahead and work on that now. I just need to remember what base coat I use, which one I used. Alright. So, it was the Death World Forest, which is a nice olive green color. And then I'll add to highlight the Elcian green color. And then a final highlight add Odrin camo. Quick shake. And then we'll mix that up. Now, the shade darkened the color pretty well. I'm just going to go ahead and touch it up and reclaim that base coat, the main color, and also just touch up some of the dry brushing that got kind of out of hand and got in areas that I didn't want it to. But I'm leaving the dark shading in the recesses. I'm just doing the same process, just different color. This was brown, but I'm going to add the green to it. The brown can be just a dark shadow. Brush is splitting hairs. That's not good. Oh, because that's curved, I'm just hitting the raised curvature for the highlight. It's where the light is shining most on it. And the best bet to find out is to wherever the light, you see the bright point of the light of your overhead light, you just fill it in with your paint. So like right here on this one, because I seen a brighter point from the lamp, that's where I would put my highlight. Okay, what other ones are green? Let me get this one right here. Okay, I think that's all the green ones. So we'll go to our next layer, which is Alcyon green. So we'll just add that to the base coat. After I finish this color, I'm going to call it for the night. So this piece is coming along, is almost finished. Just got a few more things on this to do. These red chests will be painted the same way. and then just some touch-up work on some other things, and I would say that this will be done. What I was working on earlier with the scales and such, I'll do some more work on that this week when I have the time. But I think for my next stream, I'm going to do something different, just a smaller project. Just to mix it up, have some different things to do. I'll definitely show an update of what I've done if I'm able to get some work done on them. So we're going to add some Odrin camo to this stage. This will probably be the final highlight. Do this real quick. I'll go over it with a thin wash or glaze just to add some more shadow in the deep shadows of it, and then add some more highlights, but I'll do that at a different time. Just to help it pop. Need to definitely clean this brush. I'm losing the point on it. I'm also going to add some scratches to it. Just to add a little bit of wear and tear. Thank you. And welcome. Yeah, I'm liking the look of it. It's definitely a big project. It's taken me a while. I wasn't expecting it to be a quick thing. Definitely enjoying it. Nice change of pace. I think I'm going to call it there. Actually, you know what? These ats right here. It's got some leather straps on it, so I'm going to paint that some green. I don't like that. We'll just wipe that off. I'll decide on a different color for that. But alright. Because the paint is really thin. Oh, is that a link to the Smaug that you worked on? Oh, okay. I'll have to check it out. Thanks. Yeah, before I started this, I was doing some research online and watching some videos to kind of get an idea of how people went about working on it. Alright, so I am getting really close to finishing up the base on it. I'm very pleased with the look of it. So we'll set that aside and I'll go ahead and show off Smaug. Yeah, here's one of the wings. Thank you. Last week on one of my streams I did all the airbrush with the coloring, and I worked on some of the scales today. That's one of the wings. Oops. Off camera, I'm going to do the rest of the scale work, painting in with the brown and the bones, but this is the other wing. This was all done with the airbrush, just building up the colors. I started with the dark brown, added red, and then a flesh tone into the mix, and just slowly built up the color. So here's Smaug, body. So all this up here will be a dark brown. I'm gonna paint over it again and just make it darker. And then his belly plates will be a light brown. That's his head, the body, and then the tail comes back around. So he's a rather large, very large model. The biggest I've worked on, excuse me, to date. Thank you. I'm very pleased with it because I've just really getting used to the airbrush. So I had to sit in for a while untouched until I was comfortable enough to use the airbrush to get the majority of his skin done. And I did that all last week on Tuesday's stream. So now all I need to do is some shading and then the shadows, and then build up a little bit more of the highlights. But other than that, I'm very pleased with how he looks, and I'm just going to add some more detail with the brush to bring up those highlights. But he's getting very close to being done. Alright. Well, I'm coming up on 9:30. Ran a little bit over time, so I was having fun working on things. But usually my stream is 7 to 9, but I ran a little bit longer because I wanted to. Cattlefish, if you are not already following me, please consider it so you can find out when I am on streaming again. I'll be working on a different project on Thursday. I'm going to go back and forth on Smaug, but I'm going to do some smaller projects too on my next stream. So all the information is down below in the links. So if you like what you've seen so far, please go ahead and hit that follow button so you can keep up to date of when I am streaming. But I am going to close it out tonight. I had a good time. Thanks for everyone who joined me and all the chatting, and looking forward to seeing you again. Have a good night. Bye.